there is a slew of top-level wide receivers coming into the NFL.
So guys, Tyreek Hill is on vacation in Greece, no less. So I don't know why he's taking the time to talk about anything and just not just sitting on the beach. But he jumped on social media and addressed some people talking crazy about Dolphin football. So apparently he was upset with some fans saying that they should trade Jalen Waddle. So he said, my boy Waddle is the future. He's better than I was at this point in his career. And for people in this fan base to want to trade him is ludicrous. Then he followed it up with this one, which had some Miami fans pretty nervous here. He said, him and Tua was special before me and will be special after I leave. So, guys, it's why do you think he's had a few? And then, like, I feel like if you're on vacation, someone should take your phone. You shouldn't be able to go onto social media and say anything.
Well, to your point, this is a very, like, millennial and down problem where it's like you're on vacation. Like, you don't need to engage in the discourse here during the offseason. But I just saw Micah Parsons having a debate with Stephen A. Smith the other day about Dak Prescott's place in the quarterback hierarchy. So they're just too content pilled at this point. But, Dad, to me, this is much ado about nothing. I think it's pointing out that, like, hey, they had a life before me there, because I believe they were both at Alabama at the same time on those same teams there. Jalen might have been on the younger side, but I think they had some crossover there. But regardless, had that relationship, and just the point that these guys are younger. This seemed like a real, like, big bro moment where Tyreek Hill, is the more established piece of this group, is coming in and trying to gas up these guys who Jalen Waddle has had his name mentioned trade-wise here. Tua Tagovailoa is eligible for an extension, and so this just seemed like loving up his guys a lot less than it was any sort of signs of the apocalypse coming for this Dolphins roster.
Tyreek Hill has been in the league 8 years already. I mean,
yeah,
that really is somewhat amazing. And this would be, I think, the fourth for Waddle, who's on the last year of his deal. So that's the other thing. You know, you're talking about money. You know, are you paying Tua? Are you waiting another year? You got to pay Tua. You're going to pay Waddle. He's making $1 million this year. And they could redo, or they could extend his deal if they want to, because he's an $8 million cap hit. And then for Tyreek Hill, he still has 3 more years. You know, his cap hit is 31, 34, and 56, so he'll never make the last year of this thing. I don't know about the second last year either, if they're going to redo it, because they're going to have a money issue. So how do they deal with that? Waddle has been fantastic. Waddle, you know, Tyreek Hill is such that deep threat, but you look at Waddle's numbers, they're not far off what he's done early in his career. They're actually, some are better than what Tyreek Hill has done early in his career. So it's a great 1-2 hit. You know, you start naming duos in the league as far as wide receiver, you're going to have to go, you know, you're going to have to work to find a better duo than this. But we know what it comes down to, Mike, the cap hits, the money you have to pay out, and can you keep everybody happy?
Yeah, I think the things working against all free agent wide receivers is just how many good ones are coming out in the draft each and every year at a pretty high price. And,
right,
Dan, I think ultimately when you look at this offense, yes, across their first 47 games of each of their career, Jalen Waddle edges Tyreek Hill in total receptions with 251 compared to 223. He has more receiving yards across that time as well. Hill has the edge in receiving touchdowns and yards per reception, but Jalen Waddle's been incredibly productive, but most people would probably point out it's been with Tyreek Hill on the field at the same time, by and large, what they've been able to do with Tyreek is still the more dynamic threat of that group. And so if you're the Dolphins doing future planning and you decide Tua is going to be your guy, it does complicate this a bit because you can get other players in the draft at this position, especially. Speaking of wide receivers, Jesse, let's get to our next little issue here, topic here, with the Rams wide receiver duo out here getting after it this offseason.
Yeah, number 2 in our 3 for Thursday. So we got Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp. They were seen working out together in this Instagram video posted by trainer Ryan Sorensen. I think we have the video. Never mind. Maybe we don't. Just kidding. We do not have the video, but they were working out. It looked really cool. They looked very athletic, as you can imagine. So these guys racked up over 2,000 yards between them last season. I mean, we know Cooper Kupp was plagued by injury. He never really got right. He missed those first 4 games of the season and then missed more time with injuries. Didn't look great. So, guys, if they're both healthy here, okay, where do these guys rank among your top receiver duos heading into next season?
Wow.
Dad, it's hard to not put this group, if not 1, then at least 1B. Like, we talked about one of the pairings already, right? And Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill that are certainly in that group. But I went off the top of my head last night, and this is what I had in terms of other duos that would be involved in this conversation. And by the way, the NFC West has a lot of them. Because you look out there, you've got Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua, you've got Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk, and you've got Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf. And hell, you could even maybe in the future throw JSN in there as well. The other ones outside of that division I'd look at, obviously, if he comes back, Chris Godwin and Mike Evans in Tampa Bay have been great. Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, if that group remains intact. Deontay Johnson and George Pickens. The two that I think is going to be talked about near the top, A.J. Brown or Devontae Smith. Tank Dell and Nico Collins in Houston. Or Keenan Allen and Mike Williams in the for the Chargers too. So, Dad, of that group, I really think the NFC West is kind of in their own, and then Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, and probably that Eagles group would be that top 5 that I would have to bat around with here. If you ask me and pin me down, I would probably still say on their best day, A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith would be really hard to top, but I think a lot in that group are all vying for that spot.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, if you pressed me, I would probably still lean to Waddle and Tyreek Hill, you know, as the best duo. But tough to go wrong with AJ and Devontae Smith. If Cooper Kupp gets healthy again, I mean, think about how quickly do we kind of move on? And we didn't really move on, but we had another shiny thing, right? I mean, Cooper was down with the hamstring. And you're like, oh, God, they're in trouble. And then Puka Nacua just out of his mind. So all of a sudden, you know, you start to forget a little bit about what Cooper Kupp did because Puka's setting all kind of rookie records. And then Kupp comes back and you're thinking, wow, what a duo. Kupp hurts his ankle. So you have to wonder about, you know, that with Cooper Kupp and the injuries going on. Because if they're both healthy, they're definitely going to be in the conversation. Right, because Kupp's already been there, and now Puka Nacua, let's see if he can follow up the sophomore season with what he did that freshman year. But there are you mentioned all of them with the duos, and you mentioned it earlier as well. There is a slew of top-level wide receivers coming into the NFL. It wasn't that long ago when rookie wide receivers or young wide receivers weren't making an impact right away in the NFL. Man, that's out the door. You got guys coming in the last handful of years coming into the league, just absolutely setting the league on fire, right? And you got another group this year that are looking to do that as well. So that position, you sit there and talk about positions, what kind of shape they're in. And we always talk about the quarterback position, how many great quarterbacks out there, blah, blah, blah. The wide receiver position in the NFL in what is turned into a passing league is really, really top-notch right now.
Yeah, wide receivers become the new running back, where they used to be plug and play coming right into the league because of the nature of the position. And the way that football's evolved at almost every level has gotten us to that point now. So I guess, yeah, and I feel like I'm being dismissive. You talk about recency bias of forgetting the season that T. Higgins and Jamar Chase have went together. And when Joe Burrow's healthy on the field, we were deprived of a whole season of this last year with injuries around that group. But on their best day, that's been one of the most potent receiver duos. But man, it's hard to get that 2022 Eagles season out of my head where they basically rewrote the record books, and that receiver tandem was a huge part of that. But I've let everyone know who will listen. I'm buying Ram stock next year. I understand they're dealing with the loss of D coordinator, the guy that everybody loved. I understand they got pieces they still got to fill. That offense should be a buzzsaw with these two healthy. And if they're not the best wide receiver duo in the NFL, they're not getting out of the top 3 of those. That's for damn sure. So that is 3 for Thursday. The other one we didn't get to, Amazon has paid $120 million for the rights to stream their first playoff game next year. So if you didn't like games being on Peacock and all these other streaming services this last year in the postseason, my brothers and sisters in Christ, unfortunately, they don't care.